What's up, everybody? John Eric Polai here, and UFC 253 just wrapped up over the weekend, and now all the UFC fans are looking forward to the next big event, which will be UFC 254. The main event will be Khabib Nurmagomedov defending his lightweight championship against the current interim lightweight champion, Justin Gaethje. So joining me today will be Ryan Deakin. He's a current wrestler at Northwestern. Last year, great season. He was unbeaten, number one overall seed in the NCAA tournament at 157 pounds. Unfortunately, coronavirus canceled that tournament, and we're going to talk about all of that, but we're going to start about talking with his work with Justin Gaethje, helping him prepare for this camp. Ryan, how you doing, my man? Thanks for joining us. And how are classes going out there at Northwestern?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Yeah, classes are going well. We just got started, so it's nice to get kind of back into a routine of things with everything going on.
Yeah, man, it's nice to see all the colleges getting back together and seeing college sports as well. Football's back up and running and everything else, and hopefully now the wintertime we'll be seeing wrestling, basketball, and the whole 9 yards there in the winter season as well. So, yeah, let's get into things here, man, with Justin Gaethje. How exactly did you and Gaethje come in contact with each other that he was bringing you out to Colorado and you were working with him?
Yeah, I was just looking for training partners over, quarantine in the beginning, and a lot of gyms were closed, and it was just a lot of MMA gyms that were open, that just people own the facilities and stuff. And so I was kind of wrestling with some other UFC, or not UFC, just MMA guys. And it's kind of a tight-knit like MMA community, I think, because somehow one of the guys I was wrestling with, Archie Colgan, he knew Ben Charrington, who I knew a little bit too, who was a really good – he was a national champ from Boise State, back in, I want to say like 2008 or something like that. But he's Gaethje's wrestling coach. And so they'll go in on wrestling days. And so we kind of, like, I was introduced that way and just started coming in. And then they were just like, yeah, we're going every week. So I just kept coming in and kind of got to know them through that.
So what was it like working with Gaethje and Taiwan Claxton and all those guys out there? Trevor Whitman, obviously the head coach out there. What was it like working with all those guys over the summer?
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It was really cool. It's a lot of fun. I think the sports, it's an individual sport, wrestling and like MMA fighting and stuff. But I think the team aspect of that stuff's fun, and it was cool getting to know those guys, and they're fun to be around. It was just funny. Just all those guys are crazy.
Yeah, definitely. I know I've interviewed a couple of those guys, and yeah, they definitely are. They're a lot of fun too to be around. So now, Ryan, the reason why how I got in touch with you was, Justin Gaethje just did a great interview with Brett Okamoto of ESPN. They spoke for about 26 minutes, and I suggested everybody, if they didn't see it, that they go and check that out. He mentioned your name several times, talking about how great you were to have in camp. So I have to ask you, what it was like, with Gaethje, because we know that Justin's a Division I All-American. We've heard it time and time again. We haven't necessarily seen him use his wrestling in the octagon, though. You know firsthand what he's like as a wrestler. Just how good is Justin Gaethje as a wrestler?
Yeah, no, he's really good. I think obviously he was a phenomenal college wrestler, and I think in fighting he hasn't had to use his wrestling as much, because he is so good on his feet, just striking and stuff. So I think he's a phenomenal wrestler. It was so awesome getting to wrestle with him over quarantine and have some high level guys like that. And it's funny to see. He's been doing MMA for, I don't know, 10 plus years now, and he hasn't missed a beat in wrestling. So it's really cool that I think people don't realize how good of a wrestler he was and is, and I think that's gonna go well for him in his next fight.
Hmm. So did you see any improvements in his wrestling from the time that you were working with him?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different every time you're wrestling, like folk style freestyle versus like MMA wrestling. But it's he definitely he learns quickly. It wasn't like sometimes I wrestled with a couple MMA guys in high school, and those guys, you can tell the guys that know what they're doing wrestling, and guys that don't. And obviously Justin was a high level wrestler, and his wrestling's changed a little bit, I think, being a fighter. But I think there's certain positions that like early on you start to like get stuff and figure stuff out, and then he starts to adapt, and you have to change your plan as it goes on. So I think he's continuing to evolve, and that's why he's so good at what he does. He's always learning and changing his stuff up and adapting.
And Ryan, I want to ask you a little bit about. I know you were talking about the different types of wrestling as compared to the way MMA does it, as maybe compared to the way that you guys do it, collegiately. But the one thing that Habib Nurmagomedov does, and this is something that a few years ago I remember Chael Sonnen listening to one of his pieces. He brought this up, and it was the first time I ever really noticed it when Chael said it. How Habib's wrestling's not out in the open. It's usually he likes to go against the cage and take guys down from there. So when you were working with Justin for this camp specifically, were you guys working on that type of a thing, of doing things maybe against the fence or some type of, closed-in area?
Yeah, I mean, I was wrestling with him every week, and there was stuff we were doing, but I'm sure his coaches have a plan for him too that I didn't see outside of that. But I think he's definitely, aware of what Khabib's good at, and he's continuing to figure out stuff for that. And Justin Shifty, I think it's going to be an exciting fight because, like you said, I don't think Khabib really takes those shots until he's a couple feet from a cage or kind of cuts a guy off. And I think Gaethje's a little harder to pin down and hit straight on there. So I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's looking forward to it. This is why it's such a big matchup, just because of the, kind of the conflicting styles away, too. It's just about how Gaethje's such a savage and a killer in there as well. But the one thing that I did take away, though, from the interview that Justin did with Brett Okamoto was, and this really, surprised me, he asked him something along the lines, I'm going to paraphrase it here, of training off of his back, because of obviously Habib's known to get guys down on the ground. He's done it, 28 times now, I believe his record 28-0. So when he asked him, Justin said he's not really working off of training, fighting off of his back, because in wrestling, every time he would get taken down in practice, it was 50 push-ups just because he's on his back. So he's saying he doesn't even plan on being on his back in this fight. I know you're a wrestling guy, not really an MMA guy, but what do you think necessarily of that strategy? And then, obviously you wrestled with him. How hard is he to get down?
He's a lot. He's got good hips. I think he does well. Kind of going back to that, like MMA wrestling versus collegiate wrestling, he does a good job of, like, if you're taking somebody down and, like, as he's coming to the mat, he, like, rolls out of stuff well. I think he shifts his hips quickly. And I think obviously there's a lot of grappling on the ground that's different that I don't play into as much, but I think he definitely knows that a lot more. I don't think he's going to be put on his back or anything like that. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people here because he's a phenomenal wrestler, and I think Khabib, everyone kind of puts Khabib on this, like, really high level, and I think Justin's got some really good stuff. I think he's going to surprise a lot of people in this fight, and it's going to be an awesome fight.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, and I'm sure everybody else is. And Ryan, I want to talk to you now. Obviously, you've been great talking to us about Justin Gaethje's camp and all the work that you did there, helping him with this fight. And I know you also did help him out with the Tony Ferguson camp as well. I just want to throw that out there as well. But now I want to ask you about your upcoming wrestling season at Northwestern. We'll start with last year. I mean, how devastated were you when the coronavirus pandemic canceled the NCAA tournament? As I mentioned at the beginning of this, you were unbeaten. You were the number one overall seed at 157 pounds, Big Ten champion, and then all this stuff has to happen, and the tournament's canceled. So just how devastated were you with all of that?
Yeah, no, it was at first I was, heartbreaking. I think it was different. I've never had a tournament like that. Everything. It was like a big dream of mine, growing up to win a national title and, like, being so close. We're a week out from the tournament. I really felt like I was in a good position to do it. And just to not get that opportunity kind of stung, but I think being around, good people, good teammates, family, friends, recognizing it's not everything. And, sun comes back up, and I'm just lucky I got one more year. There's a lot of seniors out there that, I know, like Colin Moore, Luke Pletcher, they were 97 and 197 and 141 for Ohio State. Those guys are seniors, number one, going to NCAAs, and they're, they don't get another year. So, I just think not taking stuff for granted and recognizing, wow, I got one more year to do this. And it stung, but it's, life goes on.
And I want to ask you now about training this year. I know you're just getting back onto campus, and I actually feel like a wrestler right now. The scale was a little bit heavy this morning, so I haven't really eaten too much today. I drank over a gallon of water already. I went on a nice. I already went to the gym and got a jogging earlier. Before we did this interview, I went out and got a walk in, got a hot shower. I'm still sweating it out too. I feel exactly like a wrestler going through a weight cut or something. So back on campus, Ryan, how's things going at the beginning of this year that you're back inside of the wrestling room there at Northwestern?
Yeah, no, everything's awesome. It's really great to be back. It's a little different. We got to kind of split up practice to two practices, so there's not as many guys. But we're ramping up pretty hard here just because we're going to senior nationals here in a week and a half, 2 weeks. So that's awesome that there's some competitions coming up because our season normally would be just about underway right now, and it's looking like it's going to get pushed back to the start date of January. So it's nice that we can do some freestyle stuff before that. But yeah, it's just awesome. Like I said, getting back kind of into a routine of things and kind of feel like there's some normalcy coming back.
And Ryan, I want to ask you now about wrestling at Northwestern in the Big Ten. I recently just did an interview with Cody Law. He spent some time at Penn State. We were talking about just how good wrestling is just in the state of Pennsylvania. All those wrestlers, of course, go to Penn State, who has a phenomenal program. Ohio State, phenomenal program. You guys at Northwestern, phenomenal program. Minnesota, Michigan, all these high-level guys right there in the Big Ten. So what's it like for you, just having these people that are going to be gunning you down within your own conference?
I mean, that's what you want. I mean, that's part of the reason I came to Northwestern, right, is, getting the best of the best every week. You can't have off weeks. You got tough challenges every week, and you're challenging yourself every week. So I think it prepares you a lot better for the end of the season. And you don't want to just beat like nobodies. You want to beat the best guys. So, and I think it's going to bode really well for Big Ten wrestlers this year with how like a shortened season and mostly just conference stuff. It's looking like our season's going to be only conference stuff and then Big Tens and then going to nationals. So there's a lot of guys that might be good, but they don't have very much competition within their conference, and so they're not going to get tested until nationals, and that's a pretty late in the year to get your first real match. So it's nice to see these tough guys early and often, and continue to be able to watch film and see what you do well and what you need to work on, and continue to improve throughout the year.
And now I want to ask you when you're going to be leaving Northwestern there. I know this is your final season there wrestling with the Wildcats. I know I've seen photos on your Instagram with the USA flag doing the whole junior nationals thing. You mentioned the senior nationals coming up as well. Do you plan when you leave to try to make the Olympics and make national teams as well?
Yeah, I'm on the national team right now at 70 kilos, but I'm hoping to continue to wrestle for as long as my body lets me, so I love wrestling. I'd love to try to make some world and Olympic teams. And I think it's a really cool time with wrestling right now, because there's actually, you're able to do it through these RTCs where you can be a regional training center athlete and be supported through that, where, I don't know, guys even 20 years ago had to work a day job all day before just to wrestle. And they were, not really able to support a family off it. So there's really cool opportunities now, and it's exciting time. So I'd love to keep wrestling.
We're looking forward to seeing what you do with your wrestling career, not only this year at Northwestern, but in the future as well. One last thing before you head out, I have to ask, you worked with Justin Gaethje and all those guys, Coach Whitman out there over the summer. Is MMA in the future for you, or are you just sticking to wrestling for now?
I don't know. Justin kept asking me to spar with him kind of jokingly, but I mean, I've messed around a little bit, hitting bags and stuff, but I don't know. We'll see we'll see. I think I'm leaning towards probably not, just because I want to continue wrestling, but I don't think that's a locked in definitive no. So it was fun being around those guys. It was cool seeing that stuff, and maybe I'll get the itch. I don't know. So maybe.
Well, if you do, man, we're definitely going to be staying in touch, and we'll make sure we get you before your MMA fight if that ever happens. But we'll stay in touch during the year, and we'll definitely get you as you start the season, as March Madness, comes up later on in the year. Ryan, if anyone's watching this, they're excited to see you. They want to follow your career along there. Tell them where to go to follow you on your social media accounts.
Yeah, just Instagram, Ryan Deakin, Twitter, Ryan Deakin. Yeah, that's it.
All right, Ryan, thanks for the time, my man. Appreciate it. And best of luck to you this upcoming season at Northwestern. And before heading out, just as always, I remind everybody subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can see more interviews like this as they come up. And also keep checking out my MMA news. A lot of great content coming out there on a daily basis. We'll see you later, everyone.